Hello, I'm Matia Query, editor of BookLife, and we are here today to give a first look at a BookLife title.
And I'm Alan Scherstuhl, the editor of BookLife Reviews, and I'm here to help Matia take a first look at a couple of books that have come into us.
Yeah, so first off we have The Spy Who Hated Me, and I'm a sucker for kind of punny titles that reference very familiar franchises. So I appreciate this title right away. I know that we're in for something that is probably going to be satirical. A James Flynn escapade is part of the series. So we have a silhouette of two characters, something that would be familiar to anyone who has seen a James Bond movie. I think it's effective. I'm a little thrown by the color scheme. And I wonder, Alan, how you feel about the red, the green, the yellow.
Yeah, when I first looked at this, my question was, is this set in Jamaica? The color scheme is the Jamaican flag. It looks like if you just kind of squint at it, or if you're scrolling on a screen and this is the size of a postage stamp and you're looking for a possible book to buy, and this goes by, it might look like a reggae DJ party or something like that. It's only when I look really closer and I see we're looking down the barrel of a gun in the traditional James Bond sense, like at the opening of a Bond film, and that I really kind of start to understand what's going on here. But this cover, to me, suggests this is going to be like a spy version of Stella Gets Her Groove Back. And I don't think that's what the book actually is. So when we're taking a first look at a book here, when we look at the cover, we look at the marketing copy, and we look at the first couple pages of the book itself to see like what impression each creates. And I'm not sure that this cover is creating the impression that the rest of these elements of the marketing do. A James Flynn escapade, The Spy Who Hated Me, it looks like it's set in a Jamaican restaurant. And now we're looking at the marketing copy for The Spy Who Hated Me by Haris Orkin. And it begins, CIA agent Caitlin Valentine has disappeared in London, and James Flynn is sure she's in danger. Of course, as a heavily medicated patient in a Pasadena psychiatric hospital, no one takes Flynn seriously. And then it continues on, establishing the premise of the series, which is that James Flynn believes he's a secret agent and keeps breaking out of the Pasadena Mental Health Institute of some sort to take on these cases, and is accompanied by a sidekick and psychiatric nurse, Sancho, which I think really makes the parallels clear. This is a Cervantes-style Don Quixote comic misadventure. And I think that this marketing copy tells me that very clearly in the first two sentences. And it doesn't belabor the literary connection to Cervantes and the origins of the novel and all of that. It's just implied by the fact that the character is named Sancho. And I find this very promising. It quickly establishes an original premise, even though this is the fifth book in the series, and makes it sound like it's going to be fun.
I agree. The literary connections are subtle, but they're definitely there. I appreciate how the humor is fairly dry in a way that, as ridiculous as this premise is, we kind of want to go with it. We're like, okay, it's not completely ludicrous. It's deeply silly, but the tone is such that we take it seriously. So I appreciate that. I agree. I think it's a hilarious concept, and it makes the cover make more sense.
It does. It also, to me, suggests why the cover is perhaps a little less clear about what the book is. It's very hard to suggest this premise with like a simple image that people can like spot on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever they're looking at possible books. And an image this big and suggest, oh, it's a Cervantes-style parody of a spy novel. Now, what I'm looking forward to seeing in the novel itself, how much the satiric elements work within the framework of an espionage thriller, and whether the novel is going to be taking those seriously to create like a storytelling experience that pulls me through.
Okay, so we are starting with chapter 1 of The Spy Who Hated Me by Haris Orkin. I'm just going to read the first few lines. Caitlin Valentine hated wearing dresses and high heels, especially tight, strapless, semi-see-through dresses and 4-inch high stiletto heels. But Oleg picked this dress out for her personally, a Dolce & Gabbana. What he spent on the dress would probably feed a family of 5 for a year. But when Oleg Ivanov had more money than God, even so, he wanted more. Billionaires always wanted more, especially those who grew up poor. More wealth, more power, more prestige, more safety. Though safety was the one thing money couldn't guarantee, that tended to make them paranoid. All right, so right away you see some well-placed cliches from spy movies. And we know already that this is meant to be satirical. But I'm getting the same feeling from the marketing copy that even though there's a lot of winking going on here, it's still taking itself seriously enough. And I think that's why the humor so far is effective.
Yeah, that answers the main question I had for the marketing copy, which is, how is this going to play as a thriller? And we know from his first paragraphs that, okay, no, this is going to be a actual spy novel, just with a protagonist who is not all there. I like what you were reading there when we get the line about how billionaires always want more. We get this kind of savvy, world-weary woman's perspective. Then just a few more lines down, we get her overhearing the Russian oligarch in conversation and saying words like extortion, cyber warfare, economic collapse, immediately establishing that there are real stakes here, but also that we're not going to dwell too long on the specifics. I find that reassuring. It feels very assured and confident. And then I think it feels even more so when we get to chapter 2. These are very short chapters. So in just a space of like 3 or 4 pages on a Kindle or tablet, we're already to chapter 2. And chapter 2 introduces Flynn. Remember, this is a James Flynn escapade. And Flynn, we know as readers that Flynn is in a psychiatric hospital. But Flynn is acting like he's on a very important mission and he's having all sorts of spy thoughts, the kind of thoughts you would have in a spy thriller. I think readers' expectations are set very clearly just a few pages into this book by these lines from Flynn's perspective in the second chapter, where he is observing a nurse in the psychiatric hospital. And we are told Flynn once dated a dancer in the Bolshoi, and she schooled him in the 5 basic positions. He then schooled her in a few more advanced ones. That is a line that could come straight out of a more serious men's adventure or espionage novel, yet here comes with a wink, and we know it's absurd, we know it's ridiculous, we're still invited to enjoy it, but who knows if any of this is true? And every espionage novel has to have somebody, a Bolshoi ballerina mentioned in it somewhere.
Yeah, and just echoing that a little bit, great satire is very difficult to write. I wouldn't dare do it myself because you want it to be compelling, you want it to be good storytelling, but you also want to make sure that it's hitting that line just the right way. So just a couple last thoughts. This is so far a very effective satire, and I'm eager to see how this author continues to pull it off.
Yeah, sometimes we see parodies of genre fiction that come from authors who do not have like a clear, deep intimacy, familiarity with the tropes and expectations of that genre fiction. I feel that familiarity here, but I also feel something else, which is love for those tropes and all the crazy things that happen in spy novels, and even some disreputable ones. And what I feel here is an author who loves it and is playing with it and understands what readers love in it too. And readers who enjoy that kind of play will probably have a good time with this.